ready for the LSU. We the best in the league if you looking for talent. LSU going hard, but we beat Alabama, then we going out to Florida. Drown the Gators, everybody getting bucked when we step in the stadium. This the LSU anthem, you know it's a hit. You don't know another rapper two-step like this. See me screaming out the window, yelling purple and gold. I'm an LSU fan, girl, you know how we roll now. Back and back it on up. Hey, 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 way down in the back.
TA, we are live. Friday night here in the Tigers Avenue. Zach, we got some stuff to talk about. Some good things, some odd things that make you go, why? And then some great news. So lots of good stuff to talk about tonight. We're excited about tonight's show and all that it'll entail. And obviously, we're going to talk about the women's basketball game, Zach, to kick it off. A fantastic game last night. And, Zach, we might as well bring him in here. He was in the arena himself, Mr. Brandon from the one and only Balcony Bengals. Oh, perfect. With the sign behind him and everything. What's up, Brandon?
How's it going, guys?
Great. We're pumped about it, having you on, man. We appreciate you joining the show again. You've obviously been on a few times and always a great guest. So, obviously, Brandon, you were in the PMAC last night, right? The Deaf Dome. Big time game last night, and I guess it was a little bit closer than maybe some expected. Sure. But Arkansas is no slouch. There's no question about that. I think their record shows that. I'm surprised
after
they're not
losses
ranked.
are to LSU.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised they're not ranked. That's pretty surprising considering they're ranked. I think they were like 17-3 coming into last night. So, Brandon, what was it like in the PMAC last night? It seemed pretty loud.
Man, the environment was great. The students really showed out, and I think, yes, it was a closer game than most expected. I think we beat Arkansas by 30 last time we played them. It wasn't really close.
It wasn't close.
But Arkansas is a good team, and I think they're, like Zach said, I think their only two conference losses are to us, and they're 17-4 now, but they're a good basketball team, and I think the fans really showed out even for an 8:00 Thursday game, and the students, I think, is really what made the difference. A large part of the student body showed up, and I think that was a big difference maker. And I almost think that the closer game as far as student attendance is actually better for the program. With had it been a 30-point blowout, I think a lot of students may have left at half or something like that. But having been close pretty much through the stretch. And with the ending that it was, I think that might have hopefully hooked a lot of students on this team and this season.
Well, shoot, if they're not hooked, they're 19-0. You better get hooked. I'm like, come on, man. It's a show out there. The performance from Angel Reese just continues to be – she had a double-double every game, right? Like 19 straight. Is that correct?
19 straight double-doubles, and many of them are 2020s. It's never really been close.
Yeah, 30, and 19 last night from Angel Reese. Just freaking incredible. 17 of them were offensive boards.
Yeah. The scary part is that she's got 2 more years, and honestly, I think looking at her play, you can see a lot of areas that she can still improve, and she's putting up 30 points and 20 boards.
Yeah, for real. No doubt. So, Brandon, let's just get honest here for a little bit. Let's get real. Like, we know it was loud, we know it was jumping, but we hear a lot from you balcony guys. Y'all are there in the heart of things with the PMAC and whatnot, and you have some opinions about how it could be done better. What can be done better, Brandon? How do you? What is your envision for the perfect setting for a student?
Man, I think the obvious thing is getting the students courtside, and I think not only does that help the environment, but I think that helps the student attendance. A lot of people say, the students haven't really showed out this year, yada yada yada. Well, there's not a whole lot to watch with the men's team really, but the women's team, if you can get people there, they'll come. I think a big part of that is getting the students courtside, obviously, and another part is, the environment. When you go to a lot of other arenas, a lot of other stadiums and stuff like that, nowhere else is scared to turn up their music like LSU is. You go to Auburn Arena, the music is blasting. And it's not calling Baton Rouge for the 47th time, which it's a very good tradition, and it should be played, in the fourth quarter. And
at least once. Once.
It should be played at least once. It gets the crowd into it and stuff like that. But sometimes you need something a little bit different with a little bit more upbeat. And I think a DJ would be great in the PMAC. They've had one before, it didn't really work out. But I think, getting a DJ in the PMAC would really be a game changer. And I think, letting the DJ play, it would also be a good part of it. I don't need to get first down for the 57th time in the game. Go Tigers, because everybody's tired of saying it. You're not going to play something good, shut up. And then, we get told there is a DJ. It's just an old dad with a laptop and a table. That's not a DJ. I don't need to hear Rolly, Rolly, Rolly with a dab of ranch or WAP in the fourth quarter. That's just not what we need.
They're kind of old now.
Not the selective music either. I mean, in a moment like that.
And it's not easy. I get that. I know that they're juggling a lot of different things, a lot of different opinions and everything like that. So I get that it's not easy. But I mean, something's got to be done, because LSU sports environments are good in spite of what we have. They're good because of the fans. They're good because of the people. And places like Auburn, who do everything the right way, who don't have quite the support that LSU has. You could only imagine if LSU was doing some of the things that way.
I mean, you think about like South Carolina, like Williams-Brice. Like they play that music and they play it loud.
Yep.
And it gets the people going. So, I mean, I see your point. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Brandon, I got to ask, change the subject a little bit. How crazy did it get whenever Angel Reese had that block while holding her shoe?
Well, honestly, from where I was, I didn't see that she was holding her shoe. I mean, I was going bananas because she absolutely just made that girl look like a child. But then they called the tech, and then everybody's like, "Whoa, what the heck just happened?" And man, but it was rocking. I mean, every day it's something, that's new with her that, you haven't seen before. And that was just something else. When you watch the clip over and over and over again, whether it's SportsCenter or ESPN, it's wild to see nonetheless. But yeah, the PMAC was rocking.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I mean, Brandon, it seems like there's a collision course ahead between these LSU Tigers and of course the number one team in the country, South Carolina, which they got to travel to South Carolina. I mean, obviously Kim Mulkey has done a phenomenal job at really early in her coaching career here at LSU. But I mean, do you think they could go all the way this year? I mean, it certainly looks like it with how great they're playing.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're definitely a school who's going to make some noise. I think I hate to say this out loud. I hate to say it, but I really don't know if they can lose. I don't know if they lose another game other than South Carolina. I mean, surely a night like last night could happen where you play a little sloppy against a good team and, they're in it. But, I mean, I think if you beat South Carolina, even if you lose, you're possibly 29-1 or 30-1, something like that. Yeah. You're looking at a top 4 seed. And, the NCAA is going to put the screws to LSU. We're going to have a tough draw. But it's not like we're beating bad teams by 30. We're beating very good teams by 30 points. So it'll be interesting to see nonetheless. I think they can definitely make some noise in the Final Four, and, who knows where it goes from there.
I'm excited for that Sunday game against South Carolina. I know, I'll be watching it. How has the draw for the students been with women's basketball? I mean, obviously, in years past, there wasn't much of a draw. Because the girls teams just weren't that great. Yeah. But how much hype is building around this team? I know last year, obviously, was massive in doing that. But how big is it now in year 2 under Kim Mulkey?
Man, when the students weren't on campus, really, I mean, it was pretty slow. But once SEC play rolled around and once the students got back on campus, like last night, what's a big deal with the students too is, the giveaways that LSU does, the free t-shirts, the Chick-fil-A, whatever it may be. I didn't realize personally how much of an impact that had, from a marketing perspective. That gets students out there. And, sometimes you have the students who grab the stuff and leave and stuff like that. Or maybe just come check out the game or come check out the game for a quarter, then leave, which whatever. But I think, last night, like I said, being at Coast game with that finish, with everybody into the game, I think that really locked that in for the near future, at least. And I can't wait for the PMAC, what it's going to look like in the first 2 rounds of the tournament at home. Just because last year, even who seeming to everybody, to most people, it kind of came out of the blue, hosting at home, and people aren't really used to that and stuff like that. It was packed and it was rocking. I can't imagine what it's going to be like this year when it's so anticipated and people are so engaged. I know we still got a lot of season left, but I can't wait for those 2 games.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. It's going to be. So I know y'all are kind of known for traveling every now and then to some big games. Like, are y'all going to travel out to Columbia? Y'all going to go out to the South Carolina game? Or
man, we looked into it. I just don't know if it's a feasible trip for us. So far with school the next day,
it'd be tough.
Had it been 4 hours away or something like that, it might be something that we could pull off. But man, it's just, I don't know if it's a feasible trip. But we are definitely looking into Dallas as for the Final Four. The only problem is I believe that might be the weekend LSU baseball plays Tennessee. Sure. So it's going to be
a tough decision.
Yeah, it's going to be. Here's the thing, though. I mean, if LSU baseball is playing Tennessee, if both are as advertised, they're going to see each other again in the postseason versus a Final Four matchup or a championship matchup is kind of possibly a once in a lifetime opportunity.
I'd have to agree with you. I think you'd have to kind of go with the Final Four.
Yeah.
In that situation. Hopefully they're there.
Yeah. Hopefully.
I'm really hoping that Kim Mulkey can make me a profit. Like I predicted that my hot take a while back was that she would get the next national championship at LSU. So I need it to come true this year because if not, it's gonna be in danger of being wrong come Jay Johnson time. Right.
I know we got a couple guys with some money riding on LSU women's to win the Natty right now, and already bonus. But we'll see how that works.
There you go. So Brandon, I mean, look, I don't think it's entirely on Matt McMahon, in my opinion, that they are where they are. I think it has something to do with, in regards to the men's basketball team, obviously, has something to do with the fact that they had 0 scholarship players and they had to pull a team together, as I like to say, with like duct tape and Gorilla Glue for this season. So I don't pin everything on him, for this season. I mean, honestly, it's about as I expected, genuinely. So it may be hard to gauge right now, but what's the feel around Matt McMahon? I know y'all were kind of close to the program when Will Wade was around. I'm sure it's not the same right now, considering everything that happened. So it may be a little bit more closed door, but what's the feel with Matt McMahon and his arrival and first season?
When Wade left, I think that was a big impact on a lot of the students, especially some of the older students, just because Wade was so influential with the student body. I will say McMahon, very nice guy, very easy to talk to. You could always come to him about something, but it's just not the same feel as Wade. And I think part of that is because, McMahon's the nice guy. Versus Wade is the guy that everybody else is pulling against, and I think LSU really, adopted that mentality, and I think that the students fed off of that. Every game, you knew that you were going into it battling the officials, battling the other coach, whatever it may be. But I think the feeling with McMahon overall, I think some people may be panicking a little bit, but I think that's just because, when Johnny Jones left, the program was in shambles. And so people understood it was going to take time for Wade to build it up. Whereas, just last year with Wade, the team was very competitive in a loaded SEC. And so people aren't necessarily used to, we're going to have to wait for him to get better. So we'll see. I think, give McMahon 3 or 4 years before you really write the book out on him. I think he's a good coach. He arguably is a better X's and O's coach possibly than Wade. But if he can't recruit like Wade, then you're going to get your brains beaten in the SEC. Just because, no slight on any of the guys now, but they just kind of have mid-major talent. And so when you look on the sidelines, when we're playing Auburn, when we're playing Arkansas even, you look at some of the dudes they have, we don't have a guy like that. So, I think you give him some time to recruit. He can get some big-name recruits and stuff like that, and we'll see how it goes. If he's not able to do that, time will tell. But
So have you seen the reveal today for Saturday? The retro unis?
Yes, I have.
Pretty sweet.
Yeah, those are sweet.
I love them. I'm pretty pumped about it. I mean, I think I texted Zach earlier. I was like, maybe it's the spark they need.
Yeah.
Just something for them,
Something, I feel for McMahon and the staff and the players, to try to keep people engaged.
It's tough
in
right
that
now.
kind of a season. I think that's something that hopefully, can kind of keep the players in it. I think it was a good time for that kind of thing. Because hopefully the back half of your SEC schedule is a little bit more competitive for you. But
yeah, I mean, considering what he had to do and what you put together, I mean, this opening stretch in the SEC has been brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely brutal. We got excited because what happened with Arkansas happened.
And Kentucky.
The top 10 team, and then we did what we did with Kentucky. Even though we lost, it was like holy crap, we just went to Rupp and held our own. But
3 points, yeah.
But now you see like Kentucky maybe really isn't as good as everybody thinks they normally are and typically are, and Arkansas has lost some games as well, and I think their youth at Arkansas is showing some. So
I think Arkansas has the same record in the SEC as we do.
Really?
Yeah, I believe we're 1-5 and we're 1-4.
Wow. Yeah. So, and it doesn't get any easier, unfortunately. We got,
Tennessee
on Saturday, and then you got
Julian Phillips, who should have been a Tiger.
Yeah. That's brutal. That's brutal. Yeah. It is what it is. It happened. What happened. So, it's just the reality of the situation. I think that's where they're at right now. But I think you're right about the whole uniform thing. Like, I think it's an attempt to try to
100%.
And like draw some kind of attention, and they're just having to do what they got to do because it's just what it is right now. So anyways,
let's get a couple comments.
The comments are flying. We may need to get.
And then we can let Brandon go and move on to our next segment. Carl Dunn said, "Get the Balcony Bengals an NIL deal."
Gladly, we'll take any NIL deals for sure.
Hey, Ryan also said, take the professors or tell the professors to give you the lessons and assignments early so you can go to Columbia.
There you go.
Hey, only problem is if the professor can give us a plane, that would be ideal.
Oh man, like private jet?
Yeah, that would be ideal.
Take
I already felt it. One day y'all will be there. Just private Balcony Bengals private jet.
Yeah, hopefully.
There's a lot more in here, Zach.
We got let's see. Carl Dunn mentioned that I didn't know this, but apparently LSU South Carolina is on Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah, it is on Super Bowl Sunday, so that'll be interesting to hopefully be able to watch the South Carolina game and roll right and enjoy being the Super Bowl.
Ryan, he loves both of y'all's backgrounds, but he's kind of been hating on mine a little bit here. He said that he was asking basically where my background was, and I told him, I was like, I got the Joe Burrow Sports, if y'all see it right there.
Oh yeah.
Sports Illustrated in the background and the baseball jersey.
Kind of got.
And then he said, "I see the frisbees." I had to correct them. It's disc golf.
Yeah,
Tyler Townsend said, "What's up? What's up, Tyler? Good to have you, man.
Appreciate you joining."
All right.
Yep.
Transition here. AYS said, I don't believe anything.
No faith in him.
Man, hang on. Well, Brandon, we appreciate you joining us. And obviously keep the student section rocking, man.
For sure. Might have to get on and talk some baseball soon.
Oh,
hey,
sure.
Tell Gant to take it easy. He looked like he was about to, kind of pop a blood vessel on his head the other night.
There's nothing.
We love the energy.
That's every game. He says I'm going to take it easy today, and then two block calls later that should have been a charge. He's about to have an
He's going crazy.
Well, keep the energy up for Tennessee on Saturday. Maybe they can pull something off.
For sure.
Appreciate you joining, Brandon.
All righty. Appreciate it.
All right, we're going to hit a quick break, and we'll get back to the next segment right after this.
5-Star Hero, your intro and outro music for the Tigers Avenue show. They ain't ready for that LSU. Go check out all his other music on all the major platforms. Don't forget to follow him on Instagram at Saints Anthem and at Twitter at One Nation Doty. Don't forget to check out his Facebook page for all his Saints and LSU merchandise. Can't get any better than Sarah Klein Stevens, attorney at law. Her firm focuses on the needs of the elderly and maintaining their dignity throughout the process. Here for you, here for your family. Sarah Klein Stevens, attorney at law.
All right, right back at it. Zach, obviously we gotta talk about something that's been in the news here lately surrounding a certain quarterback, and we discussed it briefly before my phone died in the last episode. But I want to go into a little bit more detail here, especially now with what has unfolded with the Walker Howard situation. Somebody said you needed to shave, Zach. What's up with that?
I don't know.
They don't like the goatee?
I already got rid of all this, so I mean, I'm trying to appease these people, but they're never happy.
Full lumberjack.
I can do it, but I don't know. I don't know if it's my look, honestly.
You don't think you can pull it off?
I'm not a look. Me and you got. I don't know where we get the. I mean, we get it from mom, but we got the red hair in our facial hair, which is weird. Like you got blonde hair, I've got like a light brown hair, and we have red facial hair. So like, I'm not a fan of red hair, so I just keep this. Well, I am a fan of facial hair, but I'm not a fan of red facial hair, so I just keep a little bit. Anyways.
So, Zach, what are your – so, obviously, Walker decides to go to Ole Miss. I'm like, okay, all right. Maybe he can beat Jackson Dart for the starting position.
Or at least he's competing and he's in the as a backup, which is already better than where he was at LSU. Right. At LSU, he was third string. He was going to be taking snaps from, with the scout team this upcoming season, and we know he wanted to compete in his second season. So at least, when he goes to Ole Miss and he makes his decision, at least at the moment when he made his decision, he was going to be, competing potentially for the starting position,
which I think he still will.
Second string.
I think he still will, but boy, it got.
Oh, I don't know.
It got really, really hard, like significantly a lot harder, and it got a lot more dense in that room when freaking Spencer Sanders committed to Ole Miss. Like,
yeah,
I don't know what Lane is like. Like Lane, you can only play one quarterback, homie. Like I don't know. I mean, quarterback depth is, obviously something you need to have, and
you got
talent and depth. Great, that's awesome. But man, Zach, I mean, what do you think Walker Howard's thought process is right now with that, being the situation?
I am very curious to know whether or not he knew about Spencer Sanders.
I mean, how do you not? I knew when he announced that Ole Miss was in the mix for Spencer.
Yeah, and I figured, okay, they get Walker, so maybe Spencer Sanders
to go somewhere else, right?
But then you see the announcement of Spencer Sanders, and you're like, "Ooh!" I immediately I obviously where I work, there's a lot of Ole Miss fans. Being in Memphis and obviously here around the Mississippi area, there's a lot of Ole Miss fans that I work with.
Yeah.
Of course, Jesse, one of your good friends, JP and Dawson. Of course, Jesse and JP came on the show. And even Kenny texted me, another friend that came on our show whenever the LSU played Ole Miss. They texted me and, we're like really excited about Walker. And then, what was it, the next day or a couple days later,
Yeah.
Spencer Sanders announces.
2-3 days. Yeah.
Spencer Sanders announces that he's going, and they're like, what the heck? And I immediately looked at Dawson. I said, one of those guys is gone after next year.
Oh yeah, like with the transfer portal the way it is, there's no way they all stay. There's no way.
I mean, what? Either Dart's going to transfer.
That's what I was about to say. Yeah,
like this year, or I don't know, or Walker ends up transferring again. Like, I don't know how. Like, you have Jackson Dart, who didn't have a bad season. I mean, Jackson Dart's not a bad quarterback. He's a pretty good quarterback.
Decent quarterback, yeah.
So you have him.
It feels like if that's his plan, it feels like a stab in the back.
And I agree. So he's been the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Then you bring in a guy that you're like, okay, maybe Dart. It's Dart next year. Howard pushes him a little bit, and then maybe Howard gets the reins after next year in 2024. And then you get Spencer Sanders, and this is a guy that I would fully expect is coming to Ole Miss to start.
Why would you? You don't leave Oklahoma State if you're not planning to go somewhere and start. Like it makes absolutely no sense. You're a 4-year starter, right?
Yeah.
At Oklahoma State. I mean,
is it Oregon State or Oklahoma?
Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State. Yeah. Sorry.
And you don't leave that to go and get in a quarterback competition with two other guys. One being the incumbent, like the guy who literally just started and solidified himself as the starter this past season. Yeah. And then another guy who's ready to compete for the spot now and is transferring from his dream school to do so. Like, the most logical situation, with the way this has played out, the most logical thing in my mind is that they're about to push Jackson Dart out the door. Spencer Sanders will take over as the starting quarterback for one season because he only has one remaining eligibility, and then Walker will be expected to be the guy for the next, 2-3 years.
But here's the issue, Reagan. Dart cannot. He has to sit if he transfers.
That's right. Unless the NCAA allows it. Unless the NCAA allows it, but I don't know, Reagan. It's really confusing to me. And the window's closed now, so none of them can leave until
And obviously, the other thing is it really seems like Howard put himself in the same situation. He's behind two experienced quarterbacks.
Yeah,
one like Jane Daniels that's been there for forever and has a ton of games under his belt and has been a good quarterback. Same thing with Jaden. And then you got Dart, who was a pretty big-time quarterback prospect coming out of high school and seems to be Dart obviously
started this past year.
Huh? He started obviously. Yeah. He obviously started, this past year. But, I would kind of put him more on the level of Garrett Nussmeier because he's a sophomore. Garrett was, a redshirt freshman this past year. So they're both in year 2. So, Howard's kind of in the same spot.
I genuinely think he's in a harder spot because Jaden Daniels would be the equivalent of Spencer Sanders, right? Like a guy who has multiple years of experience and he's returning, as a veteran quarterback. Okay, that's kind of like the equivalent of Spencer Sanders. But if you got to give me Dart and Nussmeier when it comes to experience, I'm taking Dart because Dart just did a whole season as a starter in the SEC West. And he also had competing time at USC and played. Garrett hasn't had, consistent starting time, especially not a whole season like Dart has. So in retrospect, you are putting yourself in a harder situation than what you had at LSU. And LSU is your dream school. The most, it felt like it was the most obvious thing to do was to go to TCU.
Yeah.
And if that wasn't what you were going to do, go somewhere else where you can start.
Florida,
Yes. Auburn. Like, because Auburn would be a more like, why did Spencer Sanders not go to Auburn? Like, it just don't make any sense. I don't know. I don't know if Ole Miss is rolling out the NIL money, but we know as LSU fans for Walker Howard, NIL doesn't matter. That's not a worry and a concern for Walker. But I don't know. It just for Walker or Spencer, it just doesn't make sense unless Lane is pushing Dart out the door. Yeah. And if that's the case, shame on Lane.
You would have thought that Dart would have known that ahead of this.
Yes.
And so I would think it's a stab in the back. I mean, Carl Dunn said if it's a stab in the back, the Lane train is holding the night. Yep. Because that's something you tell that guy ahead of time. Go, hey, look, we've greatly appreciated the time you spent here, the season you gave us, but we are moving on. And so,
and maybe they had that conversation with him. And if they did, so be it.
But if they had that conversation, Reagan, Dart would have entered the portal already.
I mean, I'm not saying which we don't know them, we don't know their situation, so we can't speak with absolutes. But maybe he says, "Hey, Altmaier has left. We're going to bring some depth in because we need it in case you're injured, and we expect you to compete for the spot." Like if that's the conversation, okay. But if that's the conversation, and then Dart sees, Walker Howard and then Spencer Sanders, I'm pretty worried if I'm him. Like you're thinking, crap. Like this is going to be tough. Like this isn't what I expected. Like beating Altmaier out is okay, but Walker Howard and him,
Jackson's not stupid. He understands. Like Spencer Sanders isn't going to come here just to sit for a year after he's been playing multiple games and been a 4-year guy. Like he's going to come here to start like that.
Yeah.
Why would you transfer to a school when you've been a starter for the past 3 to 4 years?
Yeah. 4 years
to sit. You're not doing that. Like Spencer Sanders is coming to start.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, and we've got this 5-star quarterback that we just brought from LSU. Yeah, I'm with it. I'm with you on that. Like, really confusing.
I don't know. I just don't think I don't see why Walker would have gone if he would have known Spencer Sanders was on his way. Like I don't see that. I just don't. The most, again, and I'll go back to it and we'll discuss the reasons now. Like TCU just felt like the most obvious landing spot. Like, homie, the job is yours to go there and take.
Your boy's over there.
Your boy Besh is over there. Your high school best friend is over there. And they just got done playing a national championship game. Like, I get they got blown out the water, and that's okay. But, they just, won the Pac. Well, they didn't win the Pac-12. They lost in the championship game. But, they just pretty much owed the Pac-12, the Big 12, Big 12, for the season, and lost their first game in the championship. And then went to the playoffs and beat Michigan and made it to the championship game. Like, that sounds like an incredible, opportunity. Like, Sonny Dykes' new coach. I'm sure Sonny Dykes would have been glad to have Walker Howard come to his program. So I don't know. I don't see.
He visited TCU and he visited Ole Miss. And Florida, he talked with Florida. Florida reached out to him, I think, and talked with him. So, really confusing to me.
So, do you think they're going to push Jackson out the door this spring?
They're. I mean, it only makes sense. Like, what's Jackson going to do? He just started Ole Miss. What's he going to do? Be the number 2 and be okay with it? After he just started the whole season, and he transferred from USC to come be the starter at Ole Miss.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. And you were the starter, and now you're going to be okay with sitting behind, and then you're going to have to because we know why Walker went. We know why Walker went. He wanted to compete. So then you're going to have to go compete again in your senior year. You're gonna be the number 2, sit behind Spencer Sanders this next year, and then try to compete against the Walker Howard. Doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. And obviously the portal is closed. Now I think in terms of entering the portal, you can't enter right now. I don't know if you can commit. I'm pretty sure you can still commit to schools if you've already
commit,
entered the
but you can't enter anymore.
Right.
Until the next.
Yeah, there'll be another opening in the spring, but it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. I mean, the quarterback position at Ole Miss, just got really interesting. And if you want my opinion, I think Spencer Sanders is a starter next year. So
yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, and logically, I think Jackson Dart's going to get pushed out. I think it's going to be Spencer Sanders, and I think it's going to be Walker Howard ushered in and made out to be the guy to follow for the coming years. He will be the guy, right? And I mean, if that's what it is, then okay,
that makes
fine.
Sense.
That's fine because that's here at LSU. It was seemed to be understood that Garrett had taken his spot as the back, earned the spot as the backup. So, if Jaden's done this year, well, he's still got to compete again, against Garrett. Whereas at Ole Miss, you can sit this year behind Spencer Sanders, the equivalent, somewhat of Jaden Daniels, the veteran, but then it's almost guaranteed that you're going to be the guy the next year. So I can get it in that sense, but if Jackson's not going anywhere, it's gonna be a lot of fun to watch.
If Jackson's not going anywhere, then you better beat him out.
Yeah, you better
beat him out,
or you're gonna waste. You're gonna waste some years of eligibility if you don't,
and you also wasted being at your dream school and pretty much being in the same situation.
Yeah. And I think okay. Maybe Garrett Nussmeier beat him out for the backup spot this coming year. That doesn't mean, in the next spring you can't beat him out for the starting position. So
exactly.
Don't stay in that. Don't do that to yourself. So I don't know. It just we'll see how it all plays out. It's gonna be really interesting to see how that unfolds in Oxford.
Yeah,
obviously, very much going to be something that everybody's going to be looking at because, you're talking about some highly touted quarterbacks that Lane has pulled into the situation there in Oxford. I think, Zach, I think I texted this to you, or maybe it was Jesse. I can't remember who I sent to, but I was like, this is the most stacked quarterback room in all of college football. Are you kidding me? Jeez. Anyway, so that'll be something to keep your eyes on. Obviously, we got some comments, Zach, some more on this situation we can get to.
Yeah, let's see. Ryan said he didn't think that he would give him a waiver. He said TCU was the landing spot, and he said that Walker is okay with being in competition for number 2. Yeah. He also said, in regards to Dart, he said you can fight off Walker, but you can't fight off Sanders. So he kind of agrees. He kind of agrees with you in the sense that Spencer's.
Yes. I just, yeah, exactly. If I'm Walker,
maybe you're right. Maybe they said, "Look, Spencer, come in. You're going to be the guy. You're going to have 1 year left. You're going to be our guy next year." And they told Jackson, "Hey, you are our guy this year. We're going to bring in some guys, like you said, come compete for the starting position. You're going to have to decides it."
I think the spring decides it for Dart or Walker. I really
either
do.
One. I mean, Walker couldn't re-enter. He'd have to sit.
Yeah, he sure would.
I mean, it's pointless at this. Right now, it's pointless. I mean, come on.
All right, Zach. Let's hit a quick break, and we'll continue to watch it to see how it plays out. But we'll hit a quick break here, and then we'll come back and we'll update you on some more news for LSU's transfer portal. Some great news. So we'll get to that right after this.
Tigers Avenue is proud to announce that we now have TA merchandise. You can find all of our merchandise by heading over to tigersavenue.com and clicking on the merchandise tab. We have everything from t-shirts, hoodies, shorts, joggers, hats, and beanies. We've even got shoes, Converse, and slides. Head over to our accessories tab where you can find blankets, bumper stickers and license plates, magnets and stickers, mugs, bottles, and tumblers, phone cases. You can find tech and office and outdoor products like a mouse pad, a puzzle, a notebook, and more, all at tigersavenue.com. Head on over to tigersavenue.com today, click the merchandise tab, and get yours now.
Zach, real quick, I wanted to touch on this earlier, but I forgot to with Angel Reese. Obviously, incredible night. But she kind of spoke up today, and I was glad she did about some things. I don't know if you saw it or not, but I retweeted it. I call this emoji the speak your stuff emoji. That's what I view that emoji as. It's just like a head with like a voice like thing projecting out. I call that your speak your stuff emoji.
Did you on Tigers Avenue? Because I'm pretty sure I did the same thing.
Yes, well, I quote tweeted it. So
okay.
Anyways, so obviously Angel, got that tech that Brandon mentioned after she blocked the shot with the shoe in her hand, and she kind of, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't want to read the whole quote. Because probably most of y'all have already read it, but she's essentially saying, people are saying I'm hood, I'm being too much or whatever. She was like, I'm okay with that. That's fine. But she essentially was saying we need to normalize like some passion and emotion in women's sports, and I gotta agree because let's just talk frankly, Zach, and I will. A lot of times people treat women's sports kind of like as this like, very dull thing that's kind of drag and not as entertaining. Like these are some of the stereotypes people mention when it comes to women's sports. And I'm like, then someone tries to do something about making it exciting and they got a problem with it. Right. Like, and I think there were people saying it was like, embarrassing. I'm like, it's just a double standard because, I know me personally, when she did that last night,
you're like, yo!
I was like, yeah, talk it. Talk that stuff. We don't care about that tech. We ain't worried about that. It's hype. And like the student section's going nuts. Like everybody loves it. When you get something like that, it's kind of like, I don't remember if Tari got a tech on this or not, but he dunked it on that dude. And him and Eric Gaines were just sitting there like staring the dude down. Like, you remember that photo? Like that was such like, that kind of energy, like there's a photo of her, after she blocked the shot and the player's on the ground and she's kind of looking at her saying something like, it's tough. Like, you're like, okay, like, let's go. Like that stuff brings energy and like excitement to the game, man. And so I just feel like it's a double standard because men's do it all the time. And if, as soon as men's sports do it or whatever, people are like, let's go. And then a woman does it, and they're like, oh, that's embarrassing. It's a double standard for me. I loved it. It was, it got me all excited. And I was pumped because it was a close game. It was a huge play. So I appreciated the fact that she put that out today because I think she's absolutely right. It's a double standard to hype up the guys to do it, but say she's embarrassing to do that. Like, she is a dynamic player that is like taking over, women's college basketball, 19 straight double-doubles. Like, I think she has the right to know, bring some energy to the court if she wants to. So, anyways, that's just my little 2 cents on that. Like, I was glad she said something about that.
We're gonna clip that. We're gonna put it out there.
Sure. That's fine. But yeah, like I never know what to go. What's that dude's name? Is it Ryan?
Ryan.
Yeah. Big Kelly. That's what I said. Yeah, he's saying like, yeah, Angel is hurt. She got that dog in her, right? Like, and she does. She's got that it factor for players. So, well, the South Carolina game is going to be a
powder
keg. Might see a fight. Hey, get the scrapping out there. So,
let's get physical.
Anyway, so Zach, obviously, this last section's on LSU's transfer portal.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're done yet, but boy, oh boy, Brian Kelly had – it's so awesome. Like last year, we were one of the top teams in the transfer portal, and it was expected, right? It was had to. This year, you have gone out and you have filled positions of need rather than having to go and, fill a roster. He has gone out for the DBs. He went to the defensive line. Position the defense, like he need positions of need, and he filled it. And this year, we're currently sitting at the number 1 spot in the transfer portal rankings with 11 players.
247.
As per 247, we have the number 1 transfer portal class, and so it's just awesome that like last year you had to do it. This year you didn't have to do it. You just went and filled some needs. And Brian Kelly spoke to like how you use the transfer portal properly. Like we want to build our program off of our recruiting classes, and the transfer portal is a place where you go and you address positions of needs, and that's the way it needs to be used. And I think that's the right way to approach it. Yeah. And even in doing that, you have the number 1 transfer portal class in the country. You had 11 players, 10 of them defensive, and guess what? You lost a chunk of players this year from the defensive side of the ball. And, man, Zach, you put some guys in there. I mean, what's crazy, Zach, is everybody, we got Deuce and we got J.K. Johnson and obviously Denver Harris, and everybody's hype about those guys. Yeah. Denver Harris was the number 1 guy in the portal for a period of time until Travis Hunter got in there, and I think one other guy. But he's the number 1 DB in the class for the portal. Everybody's forgetting about Zy Alexander. Like Zy Alexander is top 20 in the portal rankings. Yep. He's higher. No disrespect to Deuce, or J.K. Johnson, but Zy Alexander, just because he's from southeastern Louisiana, don't mean he's no slack. The dude's top 20 in the portal. Yeah, like big time players. So we went out there and we got some dudes, and of course you added Deuce and J.K. So your DB room now is stacked with talent, and you went and got defensive line to fill, depth spots. I feel like maybe you might have a starter out of the transfer portal, but some of your starters are already on the current team, and you added depth to that position with the portal. And then obviously, Zach, the most recent was Omar Spites, and this is huge, Zach. Absolutely huge. You get a line, but
is it Spites or is it Spates? To quickly interrupt you, is it Spites or Spates?
I looked at it as Spates. I think I just said Spites. So it's I think it's Spates though. Omar Spates. Okay. I think I just said Spites though. Maybe y'all can correct us. Maybe y'all know. But Zach, this was like you needed to address the defensive line. You needed to address the DBs, and you had in the portal. And the last thing that you really needed to get was like you didn't need like an edge linebacker, you didn't need a jack linebacker. You kind of have that in Harold Perkins, and you have that in the freshman Deshaun Womack. He's coming in, and of course you got Paris Shand. You didn't need that style. You needed a middle linebacker, a guy who can go and fill a gap, stop a run, type of guy to be alongside Greg Penn. And Omar is a day one starter. He will be a guy who is he's a veteran player who has played multiple years at Oregon State, had a great season this year. Guys, he was first team all Pac-12 defense. Like best, him and Justin Flo, I think, are the best 2 linebackers coming out of the Pac-12. Of course, Justin Flo went to another Pac-12 team, but he's coming to LSU as one of the best linebackers in the country.
Yeah.
So that dude is going to be a day one starter and just made your defense incredibly. I mean, our defense is going to be scary good next year. It is really exciting. So, Zach, what is your thoughts on, Omar and just that news? I mean, I think it's bigger than what people realize.
Well, again, you went out and you met needs, and that's what they needed to do. And not only did you meet a need, but you got a player that is going to be a major impact for this defense. It wasn't just LSU went out in this transfer portal and they got guys that are going to be depth pieces. No slack to them, but they're going to be depth pieces. And then they went out and got guys that are going to play and they're going to start. You look at guys like Zy Alexander and Denver Harris and potentially Deuce at the nickel and Omar and Aaron Anderson. I feel like I'm missing one. Those are probably the guys that are going to start. They're going to be starters on your team. And Ovia Gofu, that's another guy.
Jordan Jefferson may start in the middle. I saw some things that like they may put, which of course this is all up to Jamar.
You got to find You got to find another edge. You got to find another Ollie Gay.
Well, that's what they're saying. Mason Smith may be that guy, and your middle may be Jordan Jefferson and Mekhi Wingo.
We'll see.
Jordan Jefferson's more of the beefier type build, and Mason. I mean, Mason can play anywhere he wants on the defensive line.
I think I'd prefer somebody that can be quick on the outside, and Mason Smith is not going to be able to run to the sideline. Like he's a hole stuffer. He's a big boy, Reagan. He's a big boy now.
Zach, I'm telling you, I think he could come off the edge. I get what you're saying. Like I get what you're saying. Like, but I think Mason could play. I think he's more athletic than people give him credit for.
We'll see how that works out. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely exciting. And I didn't know, but when you texted me and said they're number one in the nation now with the transfer, I was like, oh my gosh.
Yep.
Like and as we said, like those pieces are on defense. So you already have pretty much the number one returning offense in the SEC. And now you have a number one transfer portal class on the defensive side of the ball.
Yep.
LSU is going to compete next year.
Your offense, you're returning so much. Like you're not concerned about your offense. And you also, like you said, add a guy like Aaron Anderson to that role. Your concern was your defense. And like it's not a concern anymore. It may be a strength. Yeah. It seriously may be a strength this year. I mean, you got elite DBs, like big-time talent out of the portal at the DB position with Denver Harris and Zy. I mean, huge. And I think Deuce very well could be the starting nickel. Him and Sage, I think, are going to compete for that. And I think they'll both have playing time. I think J.K. Johnson is going to see a lot of playing time. Obviously, they're going to battle it out, and we'll see who gets the starting positions at the end of the say-so. But you also got Taviano coming in, right? Like you may be coming in, but you got to earn your spot. So you got a plethora of riches. It feels like now on the defensive side of the ball, and from all implications, like Whit Weeks, we have West Weeks already on the team, but Whit, his younger brother, has very much so. Been on the rise lately. Like he was a 3-star, he jumped to a 4-star, and he jumped even more. He didn't jump to a 5-star, obviously, but he jumped more in the rankings recently. And because of his showing at the All-American, I mean, he was listed as one of the best linebackers showing at the All-American game. I think it was the Adidas All-American game where Pimpton and Jaylen Brown were at because he played so well. So, and you got Christian Braithwaite. There you go. So they really like these two freshman linebackers. And then, of course, you got Greg Penn. You got Harold Perkins, Omar now, Wes Weeks, like and then you're going to add those two freshmen. Now you got, a solid 5 guys that, 3 guys returning and then 2 guys that are, well, not returning, but 1 transfer, 2 returning, or 3 returning, and then 2 freshmen coming in. So your defense has depth and talent to add on to this offense that you're bringing back. Like you were saying, it's going to compete next year. And I may be pumped about Omar than I am any other portal player. Like, so like his 45 games, Zach. He has in 45 games, he has 304 tackles.
Wow.
304 tackles, 25 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, and 3 interceptions. It's it's going to be exciting. I'm really excited about him. He's going to be a huge role in this coming year. And obviously he's a one and done player. He's got 1 year of eligibility, but the idea is, we've already got some guys coming in, and then the next recruiting class we'll have some more coming in as well. And you'll start building that to where you won't need the portal. Correct. And I think that's they did that with the DBs. And they're on track with that, I think, with the linebackers now. So yeah, and exciting time for LSU and the portal. And Zach, I don't know if they're done. Did you see today Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh no, you're good. I don't know a whole lot about it. I know you shared it to me.
Yeah, Ja'Kai Clark is a veteran, a very veteran center at Miami, and has been there for several years and has been their center. I don't want to misspeak out of turn, but I think it's at least 2 years he's been their starter. And he's in the portal. And today we saw today or yesterday, I can't remember, but LSU offered him. Yeah. So, LSU's in the mix there. We'll see what he announces. I think they want to add 1 player in the portal to the offensive line at least, because we did take a big hit somewhat to the offensive line. I don't think in terms of
6 guys in total.
Yeah, I mean, like you lost Doomerville and Cam Wire and Xavier Hill, Cardell Jones, Anthony Bradford with the draft. So I think they're looking to add somebody just in case. Like really, you're returning your 5 guys, and of course you got 4 freshmen coming in that people are really excited about, especially obviously Lance Hurd, and then of course you got like Dellinger and
Delly and Frazier will be the guards.
Yeah.
And then you got Charles Turner and Marlon Martinez at center.
Yeah. So I think you need to probably add 1 more guy. So Ja'Kai Clark may be that guy. They were looking at Renfro. He ultimately followed his coach from Cincinnati to Wisconsin. So I think they're targeting another guy. And I think Renfro was a center, and now they're targeting another center. So, maybe Turner – maybe they're not entirely happy with him. I don't know. I think he did a decent job last year, and I think it's his job to lose. But I think they want to add some depth. So
yeah, which Marlon Martinez, I mean, he doesn't have to play center. I mean, he can play other positions.
Yeah, he can move. Yeah, absolutely.
Line, which he has done.
Absolutely. So they may not be done. Number 1 transfer portal in the class may not be finished yet. BK has obviously continually, time and time again, all the people that keep saying he can't recruit. Like, dude's recruiting very well. Like, we're doing fine. And his freshman classes are doing his, first full freshman class now is top 5, and we have Jamel Howard, who's a big time nose guard type of player, who's on campus today. Right. Yep. And he's been getting the offers from like Wisconsin and Michigan, like big time schools. So, I'm very pleased with his recruiting effort. The stigma around him was, and even that guy, I'm forgetting his name, that Notre Dame beat writer, whatever guy was it?
Drexel.
Yeah.
Whatever his name is.
Brian, whatever his name is.
Brian Drexel.
Anyways, he said, we'll see. He was like, everybody's like, he's doing pretty good. And he was like, we'll see, once it's finished. Like, Marcus Freeman's doing pretty good right now too. And obviously Marcus Freeman was ahead of time, but now they're 3 spots behind LSU in some of the recruiting rankings. So, he's been doing just fine, and he's constantly
Brian Driscoll.
He's constantly, proven the haters per se wrong, and the doubters. So Omar, obviously it was a huge addition because we needed a linebacker, and you went out and got it, and you got a very quality one. So very excited for this upcoming season. Going to be very exciting. Zach, I think in the next few weeks we're going to have to start talking about some baseball. So
we're getting close. Getting very close.
Yeah, we are less than a month away now, Zach.
I don't know if you're down for this, but I've been kind of like we do with football. I'd like to do a position kind of breakdown.
I'd love to do it. I'd love
fielding, hitting, pitching.
I'd love to do it. We need
and
to
we got to get our boy Demouy on.
I was about to say we got to get Demouy in here again. He's always a great guest and gives great insight. So, and he'll give us better insight to the pitching than we'll ever be able to. So
correct.
All right, guys, we'll hit one more quick break, and then we'll be right back after this to wrap it up.
Make sure you go follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, all at Tigers Avenue, for daily updates on the show and all things LSU sports. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to click off and hit that subscribe button at Tigers Avenue. We broadcast all of our shows live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter.
All right, guys, we appreciate y'all joining in for the show. It's been a great show. We once again, we want to appreciate Brandon for hopping in and giving his input and his insight. Is probably a better word for that because he was there and present for the game last night for the women's basketball. Y'all go follow them on social media, on all the pretty major platforms at Balcony Bengals. Show them some support. They're constantly tweeting and whatnot during games, putting their input out there and their opinions out there, all things LSU sports. So y'all go give them some love. All right. Appreciate y'all joining in. The comment section has been awesome tonight. Zach, do we have anything else that we need to address? Have we missed any? I think Gorilla Ball, absolutely. Guys, people are acting like they can break LSU's home run record. Obviously, that team back in the 90s, I'm drawing a blank on, I think it was maybe in 97. Correct me if I'm wrong, has the home run record. There's some people that think, we might get that this year. We'll see. But I'm pretty excited about that. Gorilla Ball may be back this year. All right, guys, it's been a great show. Appreciate y'all joining. We will see y'all next time here in the Tigers Avenue. 5-Star here takes out. Peace.